Since we are only a couple of weeks away from the summer season, now it's time to check out some of the new series set to air this summer. While some of these are highly anticipated manga adaptations, others have completely flown under the radar. Whether they'll become massive hits or hidden gems, these are some of the upcoming anime you might not want to miss. Here we have another show with Level 999 in the title. At this point, that's basically its own genre, and this is the villager of Level 999. In this world, demons have made most of the planet too dangerous to live in. And with their arrival, the world bestowed classes upon its people, such as fighter, hunter, mage, and the weakest class of all is villager. So, the protagonist gets stuck with the villager rank, the absolute weakest tier you can get. However, he grinds the system so hard that he hits the highest level that no one had reached before. Manga readers have been hyping it up because instead of just being a usual power fantasy, he actually uses that broken strength to protect the Demon King's daughter and change the world. It's not breaking new ground, but for a fun summer rotation, the premise is definitely there. Next is the insipid prince's furtive grab for the throne. This is a fantasy of the strongest prince who hides his claws. That said, this empire talks trash about this prince for being completely lazy. Just as you've already guessed, he is secretly a double S-grade adventurer who can manipulate ancient magic. So, he is actively playing the fool so nobody sees him as a threat, while he quietly works from the shadows to protect his brother and help him secure the throne. Someone's always out there who's a bit skeptical of the secret genius trope, but if the anime balances its battle for the throne with the actual mind games, it could turn out to be a really solid dark horse this season. To finally get to some isekai now, this is from overshadowed to overpowered. At first this seems like a typical fantasy anime, but there's actually a double reincarnation twist to it. Our main character is first reincarnated from modern Earth into a fantasy world, where he spends his entire life trying to become a great mage. Unfortunately, he has no talent for magic and ends up dying full of regret. Then he wakes up 400 years in the future with all his past memories. But while he was gone, the world's magic system heavily declined. So the basic, low-level spells he struggled with in his past life are now considered legendary magic in this new era. It's a funny concept where the main character isn't overpowered because he got a cheat code, but because everyone else just forgot how to use magic properly. If you're looking for something with a bit more emotional weight, I Became a Legend After My 10-year-long last stand has a quiet, unique, bittersweet setup. Our main character is an S-rank mage who stays behind to hold off the Demon King so his party can escape. He actually wins the fight, but by the time he makes it back to civilization, a whole decade has somehow passed. Since his old life is completely gone, and nobody would even believe it's actually him, he decides to keep his identity a secret. He changes his name and starts completely over from the bottom as an F-rank adventurer. Instead of going down the usual revenge route, this one seems more focused on the main character starting over after losing 10 years of his life. Here we have the oblivious saint can't contain her power, which leans heavily into that hidden potential dynamic. The protagonist is the daughter of a powerful duke, but because her sister is a literal magic prodigy, she grows up believing she's the talentless black sheep of the family. That all changes when she ends up in an arranged marriage with a neighbouring ruler called the Bloodthirsty Prince. However, her new life in the Empire and her connection to this prince actually triggers her own hidden powers. Just like the title says, she is completely oblivious to her own strength, constantly doing incredible things while assuming it's totally normal. Overall, it just looks like a really solid choice if you're in the mood for a fun, light-hearted fantasy setup. Now, this is the Tomb Raider King, which takes a really interesting approach to a world filled with supernatural artifacts. Instead of a slow narrative, where the main character slowly figures out how the world works, this guy starts with a massive advantage. He's an explorer who gets thrown 15 years into the past, landing right before the world even knows these artifacts exist. Because he has total knowledge of the future, he knows exactly where every god tier item is hidden and how to bypass the traps. So instead of trying to be a traditional hero who saves the day, he basically just uses his knowledge to rob his future enemies before they even know what's happening. That's pretty much it, and it's a bit more fast-paced and calculated than the usual fantasy setups. So if you're in the mood for a clever heist dynamic, where the main character stays 10 steps ahead of the system, this is definitely one to check out. There's this season's villainous anime, and it tackles a massive palace mystery through a really bizarre body swap setup. The story kicks off when a jealous girl literally steals the identity of the most loved girl in the kingdom. But that plan completely fails because the girl she swapped with has a terrible illness and is constantly about to faint. On the flip side, our actual protagonist gets stuck in the body of the hated, exiled villainess. But because she's naturally resilient and finally has a healthy body that doesn't constantly give out on her, she basically uses her new identity to outsmart the entire court and dismantle the conspiracies running through the palace. It has a brilliant, analytical female lead who thrives under pressure, making it a perfect match if you enjoy anime like Apothecary Diaries. Here's the exiled Heavy Knight knows how to game the system. Our protagonist gets stuck with the Heavy Knight class, which everyone thinks is absolute trash. But after getting disowned, he realizes he's actually inside a video game he used to master, allowing him to use hidden stats and perfect builds to turn a useless defense class into an absolute monster. It sounds satisfying, but the adaptation does have one major flaw: the art style. It's just overdone. They put so much random details on everything that the screen just ends up looking totally messy. Instead of feeling like a classic fantasy world, it has an over-polished look that can feel a bit distracting during intense scenes. Still, if you can get past the overly sleek art style, the tactical approach to the fights makes it well worth your time. Then we have the Black Torch. Now, I haven't personally read the manga for this one, but the community constantly hypes it up as a massive hidden gem. The story follows a street-smart kid who can actually talk to animals. One day he rescues a stray cat that turns out to be a powerful demon, which ends up fusing its powers with him to save his life. This drops him straight into a modern-day war between a task force and evil spirits. From what I've gathered, the real selling point here isn't some deep, groundbreaking plot. It's pure, stylized execution and fast-paced action. So, it looks like a sharp, straightforward, supernatural action story. If you want something to add to your summer watch list that gets straight to the point, it seems like a solid choice. This is Spark of Tomorrow, a cool steampunk drama about two kids trying to bring modern electricity into a world that only runs on steam. Right after that, we have The World's Strongest Rearguard, a funny isekai about a salaryman trying to build a harem with a broken support class. Then there's Red River. Now, this is a classic fantasy about a modern girl trying to survive in ancient Egypt after being worshipped as a literal deity. And finally, A Livid Lady's Guide to Getting Even. This is a revenge story about a noble girl trying to destroy a kingdom using 7 forbidden magic books. So, that's pretty much it. But there are actually a lot more upcoming titles that didn't make it into this video, so make sure to keep an eye on them as well. Drop a like if this video was helpful, and if you want to discover more anime like this,